Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Baseball Reference Deep Dive, where we type in a random player or random box score in the search bar on Baseball Reference and we see what we can learn. It's been a couple days since I last uploaded, but we're going to get right back into it. We're going to type in random and see what we can learn here today. Another box score. Okay. 1993, so not like super old, but not super recent either. This is from 30 years ago. Looks like a nice game here. We've got a 7-6 victory at Coors Field. Ooh, is this? This was very early Rockies history. I'm not sure when they were an expansion team, but I want to say it was around this time. So we'll dive into that a little bit. Close game. Was it a walk-off? Yeah, it was a walk-off. Nice. Okay. So we're going to get a pretty good game here. This is the cool thing about Mile High Stadium. So it was Mile High Stadium at the time, now Coors Field. 56,000 people. That is crazy. That's like NFL type numbers. That stadium is huge. I've actually had the opportunity to go to Coors Field. That was probably, how many years ago was that? That was probably, wow, I was probably in 8th grade. Wow, that was like 8 or 9 years ago, I think. But you can't fathom just how massive that stadium is. It is an absolute canyon there, and it's so cool because it's so grand. It really lives up to the hype, and I don't know if it's really up there on in terms of like best stadiums. I have it personally in the top three in the stadiums that I've been to, and I've gone to just about 10 stadiums by this point now. Coors Field, definitely a bucket list stadium. You've got to go to Coors Field at some point. Obviously, the Rockies early on in their tenure were not the best, as you can kind of see here. This is late July, and they're not doing so hot. Cardinals at this point. That's a cool kind of throwback Cardinals logo. They're kind of over 500. We'll see what they did for the rest of the year. Let's kind of check these lineups, see if we recognize any names. Ozzie Smith, one of the best all time. Todd Zeile, I think that's how you say his last name. I recognize that name. Not really getting any other ones here necessarily. Let's see about this Rockies. Charlie Hayes, Yankee, Vinny Castilla, Andres Galarraga, Galarraga Slams, Dante Bichette. Wow, this Rockies team had some pretty recognizable names. Eric Young Sr., father of Eric Young Jr. Hey, that makes a lot of sense, right? Okay. Pitching staffs, I don't really know much of these guys, so we'll kind of see what happens. We'll actually let's start with um, these teams, see kind of how they did this year. So the Cardinals really didn't finish much better than where they were. Actually, it seems like they declined because they finished 12 games over 500 and they were 15 games over 500 in late July, so they kind of fell off. Let's see how they finished up in the East this season. Oh, this was before the Central Division. I didn't even realize that. So they finished pretty comfortably in third place. Not great. Rockies managed to not be the worst team in the division. The Mets, wow, really bad year for the Mets. So they still finished ahead of the Padres. Now let's go and see what the Rockies. Yeah, this was their inaugural year. How about that? Super cool. Really cool stuff. Joe Girardi was their catcher. Did not play in this game, but that's a cool little nugget. Nice. So we got the inaugural season of the Rockies. We've had some references to the inaugural season of the Rays, but now we get one for the Rockies. July 22nd, 1993. All right. Let's walk through these lineups here. Bernard Gilkey had a decent career, good hitting numbers, above average hitter, 14th in MVP voting in 96. This was a pretty solid year for him. He had 30 home runs this year, kind of just out of nowhere. Hit 305 this season. This is his second full season in the big leagues. See if there's any interesting trades. Nelson Figueroa, I think that's a fairly recognizable name. Pitcher? Yep. I did recognize that name. Did he play? I think. Was he on this? Yeah, I think he was in the video game this year. Because this was the first baseball video game I ever played, was the 2012 version, which was retroactive to the 2011 season. I think he was on the Astros roster this year. I think this is why I recognize that name. Okay, Bernard Gilkey was hitting very well at this point of the season. Ozzie Smith, one of the great gloves of all time. We kind of got a look at maybe another one of the best defensive shortstops. We had Omar Vizquel's MLB debut in our very first episode. That was super cool. So now we're getting some Ozzie Smith action. This is the last full year of his career. Decent season. He hit better, well, maybe not towards the beginning of his career, but he hit decent in a couple of these years. Never hit for much power, though. He would drive in some runs, though. He was good for about 50 RBIs a year, which, again, he was hitting second in this order, which is kind of the standard place that you would have a guy like him hitting in. Never struck out. He would take his walks. Contact hitter. You can see all these bunts. Like, I'm sure a lot of these. Yeah, so sacrifice hits it's just straight up bunts. I guess I didn't realize that delineation. So we have sac flies, and then sacrifice bunts are a completely separate stat here. Okay, that's nice. So look at all of these. A lot of sacrifice bunts. Whoever was hitting first, usually in this day and age, you would have a guy who was a contact hitter that would, occasionally hit doubles, usually had a lot of speed, sometimes a singles hitter with a lot of speed. And then you'd have a guy that was really good at handling the bat, hitting second. And I still like that philosophy. Even in today's game, I think that's a good philosophy, and I kind of wish that more teams would kind of go back to that. I think we've kind of outthought ourselves with these new metrics, and you think of guys like Kyle Schwarber hitting leadoff and like the home runs. You want to get more at bats to your power hitters, which in a way it makes sense, but I feel like with how the strikeout is more common nowadays than ever, I feel like now it's like you should just have these guys who are getting on base that have good contact numbers and can handle the bat, hitting at the top of your lineup, and then use those 3, 4, 5 spots for your power guys. So that maybe that's a hot take personally. I don't know. So we talked about Omar Vizquel being one of the best defensive players of all time. Here is your statistically greatest defensive player of all time. 44.2 D-WAR. Almost as much D-WAR as offensive WAR, which is pretty much unheard of in today's game especially. And he won a Silver Slugger here too, I saw. Yeah, what year was that? That was 87. So ironically, Ozzie Smith didn't make an All-Star game this year. It was the only year that he didn't make an All-Star game in this 16-year stretch. Wow. How about that? Greg Jeffries. Who's this guy? He's got a Phillies hat on. This was his first year in St. Louis. He was an All-Star this year. Almost top 10 in MVP voting. This was a career high in homers for him. 342 batting average. Good gosh. Almost a 3.45 in his slash. Or wait. Yeah. Almost a 3.45 in his slash. He followed it up with a really nice year here in 94 as well. Led the league in doubles in 1990 with the Mets. How did he get to the Cardinals, I wonder? Craig Wilson, is this who I think it is? Pirates? No, different Craig Wilson. So was traded there from the Royals. Okay, that's Greg Jeffries. Todd Zeile, I think that's how you say his last name. It's not going to give me a pronunciation here. I believe he also played for the Mets. Yeah, towards the very end of his career, a little bit in the early 2000s as well. This was in the earlier part of his career. He played a long time, 16 years. Never made an All-Star game. Seems like a real one of those Hall of Good players. Not like Hall of Greats, but just Hall of Good. 1,000 RBIs, 2,000 hits. And he never made an All-Star game. That's shocking. I recognize this name maybe as one of those guys that was a very good player but just didn't get the national recognition that maybe he should have had. Bounced around a lot. Seems like his longest tenure was with St. Louis. Early on in his career, did he ever go back? Doesn't look like it. One of those that played for both the Yankees and the Mets. Was he ever on any meaningful teams? This team lost. Well, he got traded from the Yankees the year they lost in the World Series. 98 Marlins was the year after they won the World Series. So it looks like he just kind of missed out on a bunch. Never was on like a really meaningful team, I guess, and that's kind of maybe why he's flown under the radar. Intriguing player. That's why you dig into these things. Ray Lankford. 200 home runs. Could steal some bases, too. Wow, look at those numbers. Led the league in strikeouts in 92 with 147. That's what led the league in strikeouts in 92. That's crazy. All the while, he's still hitting 293. And somehow taking his walks, too. Rookie of the Year candidate. One-time All-Star. Not a great year. Yeah, definitely a down year for him. Did he play good defense? Average defense. Maybe slightly above average couple of years. Looks like defense really helped him this year specifically. Well, led the league in triples in 91. This guy's a speedster, and he hits for some good power too. Good player. Who's next? Mark Whitten. End of his career played with Cleveland. Not for very long, though. Didn't really play a full season much. Wow, he flipped around a good bit. Played for 3 teams in 96. This year in St. Louis was his first year with the team. This was one of like 2 years overall with the same team. He had a lot of games played this year, but this was his like only full year along with this year in Cleveland. Mashed 25 home runs just out of the blue. What an intriguing player. Had like some stolen bases in this little range here. Mark Whitten. Hopped around a lot. Surely he was traded several times, I would think. I'm not seeing any like super recognizable names. Again, not super familiar with the 90s, not as much as the 2000s, but still a couple of names might ring a bell occasionally. Luis Alicia? 13-year career. Kind of all over the infield, played some outfield a little bit too. Never hit for much power. More triples than home runs. Had 11 triples the year before. Interesting. About a league average hitter. Kind of just kind of average. Former first-round pick out of Florida State, native of Puerto Rico. Luis Alicia. Huh, okay. Tom Pagnozzi. Tom Pagnozzi, middle of his career, all with St. Louis. So here's your guy, like all-star, gold glover with one team. Played his entire career with St. Louis. See if there's any other numbers we can kind of pick at. Never hit 300. Didn't hit for much power. Random 13 homer year in 96. Catcher, primary catcher, played a little third base and first base. Arkansas. Interesting. Tom Pagnozzi. Where's he from? Texas or Arizona? Would not have struck me as an Arizona guy. I would have thought this guy was from like New York or something with that last name. Tom Pagnozzi. Bob Tewksbury. Career 3.92 ERA. This guy was decent. Finished in third in Cy Young voting the year before. Let's see who he finished behind. Greg Maddux and Tom Glavine. Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. Doug Drabeck won the Cy Young. Was actually the last Pirate to win the Cy Young. That was in 92? 91? What year was that? 90. Okay. Bob Tewksbury. Really solid career. Didn't start... started really well and then kind of took a dive when he went to the Cubs. And then, like, ever since he got to the Cardinals, he was really good and then kind of fell off ever since then. So kind of like a Cardinals merchant. He loved pitching for the Cardinals. All-Star the year prior, excuse me. A lot of contact. Was not a strikeout guy, as you can see. A lot of hits given up. More hits than innings given. Wow, what was his WAR? Or his whip? 1.3 practically. Not ideal. He didn't walk many batters, though, I guess, so that kind of helps him. Contact pitcher. Pitch to contact. Bob Tewksbury. Now for some other relievers in this game. Rob Murphy. Decent career. Most games appeared in 88. Still a lot of games this year. Not a great year for him. ERA close to 5. Also not really a strikeout pitcher in this juncture in his career, but maybe a little bit before, kind of as a reliever. Never started a game. Was never like much of a closer either. Kind of bounced around a little bit. What's this? 1, 2, 3, 4 teams? 4 teams in 4 years from 90 to 93. Rob Murphy. Omar Olivares. Decently long career. Finished his career in Pittsburgh the year I was born with a very Pittsburgh Pirates type of ERA. Seems like these 2 years were his best, and then everything after that was not ideal. Career 4.67 ERA. This year was kind of the beginning of the end for him. Not an awful ERA, but as a reliever, it's still not great. This was when he was a starter. I guess he started this season too. They kind of like chucked him in the bullpen in '93, and then he went back to starting, and that just didn't work. So he began as a starter, came out of the bullpen this year, and then it kind of ruined him, it looks like, because then he went back to being a starter, and he never was the same in these 3 years that he was really good to start his career. Man, they did our guy Omar kind of dirty back in 1993. Lee Getterman. This was his one and only year in St. Louis. A very good year, sub-3 ERA. Had a decent, actually really solid career with the Yankees. Was also with the Mariners. Missed a year in, or just didn't pitch in the bigs in '85. Also didn't pitch in the bigs in '94. Went to Liberty University, my alma mater. I'm glad I checked that. Lee Getterman. 4th-round draft pick. Liberty's put out several players. Will Wagner, he's Bobby Wagner's son, or Billy Wagner's son, excuse me. And then he made his debut this year. I don't like that name. We're going to scroll past that. Where's the other one I'm looking for? Where is he? Did I miss him? He's probably down there with the man who shouldn't be named. Yeah, there he is. I don't want to go all the way down. Randy Tomlin, Pirates pitcher. I got the opportunity to be his assistant coach at Liberty Christian Academy for my freshman and sophomore years of college. Really good coach, very soft-spoken guy. Had a nice little career with the Pirates back in the 90s. Good pitcher. Never had a bad year, really. He was always solid. He didn't play for very long in the big leagues, but really, really nice guy. Always wishing me well in my professional endeavors. Lee Getterman, Liberty guy. That's cool. Glad we got to see that. Gerald Perry. Negative WAR guy. Seemed like this was one of his better years, actually. Hit .337 in almost 100 games. Not a whole lot of pop. Stole a lot of bases this year. He was an all-star. A sub-0 WAR with an all-star. Deservingly? Yeah, I would say so. Hit .300, slugged .400, which is not the best, but hey, it's all right. This is kind of the age before the power stroke really took off. Gerald Perry from Hilton Head, South Carolina. All right. And then our last Cardinal, Todd Burns. Is he a closer? No, not necessarily a closer. Short career. This was towards the end of his career. He didn't play. He appeared in 24 games. When was his last game? In September. So this was the last little bit of his career. Started with Oakland. Was very good with Oakland. These 2 seasons, or actually this 93 season was really his only bad year. So when did he get traded? Let's see. So he was with Texas. I think I went too far. There it is. Wait a minute. July 22nd. July 22nd. Is that our day? He was traded this day, and he played. What the? So he was in Texas. Wow. This guy was traded this literal day. Right? July 22nd, 1993. He was traded for a player to be named later. Wow. How about that? That's really cool. So Texas was trying to get rid of him because he had a pretty bad ERA with them in several games. Kind of flipped back and forth between starting and not starting, it seems like, too. Maybe like a long reliever type of guy because he doesn't have a lot of innings pitched necessarily. And he kind of was really bad with St. Louis here towards the end of his career. Wow, how about that? We got a guy that was literally traded on this day. Now, did he play, or when did he pitch? Had he pitched previously? Let's look at these game logs here if they load. Actually, no, those are splits. Clicked on the wrong thing. 93. Pitching game logs. So, July 22nd. So he hadn't pitched in several days. He pitched like almost a week prior. And then he just shows up and pitches in this game. I think he gets the loss too, if I saw correctly. Todd Burns. Did he get the loss? Yeah, 0-5 this year. Wow, that stinks. That's a tough bid there. How about that? So Todd Burns was literally traded on this day, July 22nd, 1993. He manages to get from wherever the Rangers were to Colorado, and he pitches that same day. Cool stuff. Now to the Rockies. Alex Cole. Very limited power. This was his only year with the Rockies. Was on that 92 Pirates team. It's the last Pirates team to really do any damage in the playoffs. So it was with the inaugural Rockies. Tom Lampkin, we've seen his name. Ooh, he was also traded for one of the guys on the other team. I did see that that our Omar guy, the guy that kind of got ripped off by the Cardinals, kind of ruined his career, theoretically, I guess you should say. I saw that he did play for the Rockies for a minute, but I didn't think to really look at it. So here we go here. It's funny, the Indians traded him to the Pirates. And the Pirates, actually no, I guess it's a decent trade. I was going to make a Pirates joke, but I guess it's not really joke worthy. So this guy was traded for one of the guys on the other team in this game. Led the league in errors in 91 and in 94. I think from like outfield errors. Yeah, okay. Not a good defender. Wow. Looks like that kind of held him back. It seems like he was an okay hitter. Career 280 hitter, but that defense was bad. A lot of stolen bases. 40 in his rookie year. Wow. Wow, that's a lot of stolen bases and not a lot of games. Never hit for much power. Actually, he didn't have a home run to his name until 1994 when he had 4. Crazy stuff. Alex Cole. Scott Frederickson. Ooh, short career. Is this his only year? Yeah, it is. Seems like he had a career-ending injury or something, or at least something that he couldn't get back to the MLB. Actually, I want to see what his minor league stats are. Did he ever pitch after this year? Yeah, he did. Ooh, 11-3. So he kind of got hurt, and then he never really got back to the majors. Oh my! July 23rd was his last game, so the next day after our game, right? So we're the 22nd. I always kind of keep back and look. July 22nd, and then his last game ever was the next day. Oh boy. The next day? Yeah, okay. So this was his outing. This is our game. It says he finished the game the next day. He's in the 9th inning, so they lost. I guess he... So that was the last game that he played. Wow. He didn't do very good, obviously. He's got that 6.21 ERA. Way too many walks to strikeouts. That's not going to help you out. Didn't really give up the home run ball a lot, but those walks definitely killed him. Scott Frederickson. Very intriguing. So we got one of his last games. Literally the next day was his last career game. Pitched 1 year for the Rockies, and that was it. Charlie Hayes, father of Ke'Bryan Hayes. So 93. Led the league in doubles this year and double plays. That's kind of funny. Oh my gosh. His son takes right after him. His son, Ke'Bryan, seems to ground into double plays all the time. Looks like this was his best offensive year. Maybe he kind of benefited from being at Coors this year. Even though that the Yankees kind of had a hitter-friendly ballpark. Although this season was pretty good for him too. But this is like a career year for Charlie Hayes. Yeah, this is like his best year by far. Look at that. 45 doubles, 25 homers. This is like almost double what he normally would hit. Didn't strike out a ton this year. Most games played. Good slash. Yeah, this is a nice year for Charlie Hayes. Best year of his career by far, I would say. Darren Holmes. Darren Holmes. Started off kind of... Well, he played a lot of games. Was pretty good with Milwaukee, and then kind of regressed a little bit. Although 4.05 ERA, I feel like that's not awful when you're pitching in Colorado a lot. Career 4.25 ERA. Played a long time in Colorado. Kind of bounced around towards the end of his career. A lot of innings, or a lot of games here in this little stretch. Looks like he might have got hurt this year. Didn't play a full season. Darren Holmes. Roberto Mejia. Uh-oh, another negative WAR guy. This was his first season. His debut was like a week before this one. All right. Did not have a hit in his debut. Let's see when he got his first career hit. How soon it was to this game. No, it didn't take him much longer. Next day, July 16th. What was he doing in our game? Ooh, this was like his career game so far. 3-hit day. Had a 4-hit day here, so kind of the best game, or the best offensive game at least of his career to this point in this first week. Roberto Mejia, not a long career. Did play for the Cardinals later. Just really didn't do a whole lot, though. I mean, these are pretty minimal numbers. This rookie year, it seems like, was his longest year. 65 games, 5 triples, 5 home runs. Struck out a lot. That's a lot of strikeouts. Roberto Mejia. Dante Bichette, father of Bo Bichette. Good player. 93. It's a great year. Look at how solid these OPS plus numbers are. Above average hitter, like pretty much the entirety of his career. Except for these couple, like first couple years. Oh, 94 was the lockout year. I forgot about that. That's interesting. So 93, 21 homers. Kind of like in the dawn of his big power surge here. 40 homer year. Had a 200 hit year. Man, Dante Bichette, good player. He must have really been bad on off or defense. Yeah, these are really bad defensive numbers, which could also be a product of Coors Field. Because if you look in like his time with California, even Milwaukee, like they pale in comparison to how awful these numbers are. Because Colorado's outfield is just massive. It's so hard to play defense as an outfielder there. So it's just as hard as it is to pitch at Coors Field. It's equally as hard to be an outfielder. So I think that plays a lot into like why his WAR isn't as good. So I think I've said it before. I like WAR as a number, but you have to read into it. You have to do your homework. You can't just look at the number and assume. You got to kind of look at the surrounding information to kind of determine if it tells the whole story or not. Because you can see D-War at negative like 3.9, I think we saw in one of those years, and be like, oh, well, he was like abysmal defensively. But then you look at it and it's like, oh, he was playing at Coors Field. You know, you can also think about playing left field at PNC Park in Pittsburgh. Like these are like just crevices, massive canyons of outfield. So it makes sense why those defensive metrics weren't always as good in those types of years. Andres Galarraga, one of the best power hitters of this generation. Never won an MVP, won a couple of gold gloves. There's a couple nuggets for you for your grids. This was, oh my, he hit 370 this year. Look at this slug. He didn't hit nearly as many home runs this year, but overall, this might have been, I mean, again, it depends on what you value. So he only played 120 games. So as far as reliability, it wasn't as much. But in that time, I mean, look at these numbers. You can't deny how good that is. I talk about like a 3.45 slash. He has a 3.46 slash, almost a 4.46 slash. That's nuts. Big strikeout numbers. He's like your classic power hitter. When did he hit that home run? He hit a home run in Miami when they were the Florida Marlins. I forget what year that was. I would assume that's probably in like the later 90s, if I had to guess. He hit some mammoth blasts. 150, 140 RBIs. Led the league in homers this year. 96. Somehow finished 6th in MVP voting. Behind Caminiti. Very good year. That makes a lot of sense. Piazza. Ellis Burks, a teammate of his. Maybe we'll see him. Jones, Bonds. Okay. Do we see Burks in this lineup? We'll go back to our box score here. We do not, actually. So he did not play in this game despite finishing, I think, what was that, 4th in MVP voting? Gerald Clark. His only year in Colorado. Career high in homers. Kind of a below average hitter. Didn't hit for much power at all. A lot of hits, but not a lot of power. Spent some time in San Diego. Missed a year. Maybe an injury of sorts. This was his first, or this was really his, I guess his second full year. And this was kind of the dusk of his career because he didn't play too much with Minnesota, although he played fairly well. Wow, he was hitting 339 and 100 at bats. Gerald Clark, outfielder, first baseman. Danny Schaefer. Oh my. Yikes. Debuted in '87. Never played a full year, but this was the most games he'd ever played in a year. This is his best year by a good margin, I guess. Negative WAR every single year of his career. So, you are replaceable, Mr. Danny Schaefer. Pennsylvania guy. Former first-round draft pick. I want to see if there's any other names in this draft that is it going to tell me? 81. Danny Schaefer. Where's our guy? He said he was 20th. There he is. Not a great draft. Wow, a lot of these guys didn't even make the majors. Or they didn't sign even. The first overall pick didn't even sign this year. Wow. Maybe that was kind of standard back in those days. Some of these guys wanted to keep playing in college, or maybe they were high school, I don't know. Was he drafted? He was drafted at a community college in Harrisburg. Interesting. Vinny Castilla. Good player. A lot of home runs. Early on in his career, kind of his first long crack at the MLB level. Didn't really come around until a couple of years later. 162 games played in 98. Led the league in RBIs in 04. A long time with Colorado. Ended his career in Colorado too. Yeah, I mean this is kind of one of your legacy players. Hit 40 home runs for 3 straight years. Hit 30 for 5. Came back after a little hiatus and hit 35 again. So yeah, one of your all-time great Rockies. I wonder if his number's retired. I would think it has to be. Good hitting numbers. Slug was great every year that he was with Colorado. This is like a Rocky through and through, Vinny Castilla. Chris Jones. Kind of just a role player. Not a lot of games played in any given year. Kind of just a bench guy, it seems like. 2 years with Colorado. Decent bench numbers, seems like. Only 200 at-bats. Drove in 31 runs. Did that twice. Chris Jones. Hey, it's his birthday! December 16th. Happy birthday, Chris Jones. From Utica, New York. I was looking to get a job in Utica, New York, actually. The Utica Comets hockey team. I believe they're AHL? I think they're AHL for the Islanders, if I remember correctly. Freddie Benavides. Alfredo is his real name. Only year in Colorado. Career high in everything. Yes. Literally everything. This is the best year of his career. Freddie Benavides. Infielder. Played all 4 infield positions. 3 home runs. Yeah, this was his best year. Look at him. Look at him go. Even his strikeout numbers were down. Look at that. Look at him go. Armando Reynoso. Why do I recognize this name? Ooh, maybe this 01 World Series. Did he pitch in the playoffs? No, actually he pitched for the Rockies in the playoffs. A couple years after this year when they were pretty bad. Not a great career ERA. Actually never really had a good year except for this last year with the Mets. That's really it. 4 ERA is not too bad. Starting pitcher. Did he start this game, or did he come out of the bullpen? He would have had to start. Was he the starter? Did I just miss that? Yeah, he was the starter. Armando Reynoso. 30 starts this year. Ties a career high. Did it a couple other times. All right. Eric Young Sr., father of Eric Young Jr. Again, that makes a lot of sense. Oh, look at this. This was his first full season. All-Star, won a Silver Slugger in '96 with them. A lot of stolen bases. His son took after that very well. Not a lot of strikeouts, would take his walks. Didn't hit for a lot of power, but just your classic speed guy. Guy you like off the bench. Good career, almost 1,000 runs, very close. I assume he played good defense too. Yeah. Yeah, like look at this. These numbers are almost even more impressive because we saw like a guy that has like really awful I was looking at the wrong number. Okay, forget everything I just said. But even still, like to have a positive D WAR in Colorado, that's still pretty impressive. Definitely not nearly as impressive as it would have been to be a primary outfielder and have these types of numbers. O WAR, D WAR, definitely very, very distinct. Jim Tatum, one of 2 years in Colorado, his longest year in the MLB. Hit 1 home run. Wonder when that was. Made his debut with just a couple of games in Milwaukee the year before. Let's see when that home run came. Game logs 93. We're looking for a dinger. Dinger May 4th. Hey, Star Wars Day. Pinch hit? Yeah, pinch hit at bats. First career homer. Against the Cubbies in a big win. Late home run. That might have been a game-changing swing for Mr. Tatum. All right. Let's see who our players of the game are. Let's see for this Cardinals side first. 2-hit day from the Wizard and from Greg Jeffries. I think we get a home run from Todd Zeile and Mark Whitten. A couple of home runs, both off of the starter, Reynoso. And on the Rockies side, Mejia, we talked about how this was his best game at this point in his career, very young career. Dante Bichette had a home run in this game. Andres Galarraga, not Armando Galarraga. Had a home run in this game as well. Solo home runs, I guess, too. They weren't driving themselves in. 4-for-3 day. Danny Schaefer, Gerald Clark. Middle of the Rockies lineup was eaten today. Rob Tewksbury, that's a quality start if I've ever seen one. 9 Ks, good stuff. And it looks like Rob Murphy and Omar Olivares failed to get outs in this game. And then Todd Burns traded literally today. Yep, that's our guy. Was traded literally today. Blew the game. Reynoso, 7 innings, 5 runs. Not amazing, but fine. Man, look at this. 108 pitches in 7 innings. I would kill to have a starting pitcher do that today. That just does not happen anymore. ERA was pretty good at this point. Fredrickson gives up a run in his inning. Darren Holmes gets the win. Perfect inning on his part. Strikeout to go along with it. Only 3 strikeouts for the Cardinals lineup in this game. All right, let's see the breakdown. Any umpires? Nothing that I can see. Beautiful day in Colorado. That's a dry heat. That's a nice heat. So Dante Bichette and Galarraga go back-to-back in the first inning. Todd Zeile says that and says, I'll cut the lead in half. And then the Wizard, RBI single. Is this with 2 outs? Yeah, 2 out, RBI single. Little Bob Tewksbury sacrifice bunts. The pitcher, they could always handle the bat in this era. They were expected to handle the bat. Moves the runner over. Looks like the runner didn't move over here. And then Ozzie Smith drives him in. Move to the 6th inning. After a double play, then Langford and Witten combined to take a 5-2 lead. Witten with the home run. Alicia extends the lead once again with some 2-out hitting. And here was the big inning for the Rocks. Bottom of the 8th. So we go single, single, single. Rob Murphy fails to get an out in relief. And then our guy, Omar Olivares, is coming out of the bullpen this year for whatever reason. The Cardinals ruined him this year. Why would they do that? He comes in, probably cold. He's not used to coming in on short notice. He sees these 3 singles. How many pitches did it take? Early singles. So first pitch of the at-bat, second pitch of the at-bat, third pitch of the at-bat. So 6 pitches in, and they're like, hey, man, you got to get warmed up here. Omar Olivares comes in cold, walks Chris Jones, walks Benavides. He gets taken out for our Liberty guy, Lee Gutterman. And then he gives up a ground out to Eric Young Sr. to get that out, and then forces a double play ball. So, hey, he did his job. He gave up the lead, but he kind of avoided the damage, it seems like. Charlie Hayes grounded into the double play against him. That's funny. And then in the 9th, single, double, intentional walk, bases loaded, nobody out. Gerald Clark gets up there, fly ball to center field. Dante Bichette comes home to score, and the Rocks take this one from the Cardinals, probably spearheading their eventual, I guess it's not a decline, but they couldn't capitalize on being 15 games over 500, even just before the All-Star, or not the All-Star break, but the trade deadline, if that was when this was. Rocks win their 35th game ever, and it's on their way to finishing second to last in the West Division. Good little game here. A lot of cool nuggets. I learned a lot in this episode. We got some cool little players that, around this game. It's kind of cool. We got a Hall of Famer, Ozzie Smith. Todd Zeile, probably one of the more underrated players of all time. We've got, where's our guy? Todd Burns was literally traded on this day and still pitched. We got a Liberty guy. We've got a guy who we've kind of fantasized and said that the Cardinals ruined him by throwing him in the bullpen. Probably shot his confidence. Actually, that makes a lot of sense. I don't know anything about this Olivares guy, but if you look at this, he comes in after this guy. He replaces the starter. Starter has a quality start through 7 innings pitched. They bring in this guy, single, single, single on 6 pitches, and they're like, hey, man, you got to get warm. You got to get warm hot. You got to get warm fast. And Olivares comes in and he walks these guys. Oh, both on 4 pitches. I didn't even see that. 4 pitch walks. He didn't even issue a strike. Is that reflected here? Yeah. 8 pitches, 0 strikes. It completely killed his confidence. What was his ERA at this point? It was pretty bad. 4.60, but it's not helping anything. And then again, you look at the rest of this guy's career and just nothing else. Really good to start his career as a starter. He finished this year pretty strong, actually. And then they try to bring him back to being a starter, and then 5, 6, 5, 4. I guess this year he was better with Anaheim, kind of a change of scenery. 4, 6, practically 7 for these two. So that's my thing. I think the Cardinals ruined this guy. Pour one out for Omar Olivares, because the Cardinals, they ruin everything. They ruin this guy's career. Well, and then let's check the Rockies once again. What am I looking for? Charlie Hayes, best year of his career, still was finding ways to ground it into double plays at big moments. Roberto Mejia, this was early on in his career, just a week into his career. Best game so far of his young career that didn't last super long. Dante Bichette, Andres Galarraga, Vinny Castilla, some of the all-time great Rockies. Gerald Clark had a great game, the game-winning RBI in this one. Eric Young Sr., then again, father of Eric Young Jr., who both of them played the exact same way. You kill them with speed. I can't remember if I said this or not, but the clip that I think about with Eric Young Jr. is him laying down a bunt, and it goes all the way into the outfield. He flew a bunt into the outfield on the fly, and he thought about taking second base on it too. He almost turned it into a bunt double, but he thought better of it. He probably took like a 45-foot turn and then decided to go back to first base. So, but again, you could see, in the breakdown of Eric Young Sr.'s career, his father, that it was just very similar. He played the game in a very similar type of way. A lot of speed, a lot of contact, never struck out. Cool stuff. Really good game. We got a lot of insights on this one. I learned a lot in this game. So thanks for watching this one. This breakdown of the July 22nd, 1993 game between the Inaugural Rockies and the St. Louis Cardinals. A walk-off winner. 5 runs in the last 3 innings for this Rockies squad. Good for them. 35th win all time in their very young, budding inaugural season. Cool stuff. Thanks for listening. This is Zany Baseball. As always, we will be back with another episode of Baseball Reference Deep Dive, where we'll type random once again into this little search bar here, and we'll see what we can learn. Thanks for listening to this episode. Be sure to check out the other ones, and if you like it, like the video and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more uploads that I have. Have a good day. We'll see you next time.